Hello again. I'm here right after recording my last video, just because I had another thought that I guess I tried to mention in the last video, or maybe that's the original direction I wanted to take it and it became something else. But either way, as you see from the title, the insert country name here is cooked. Um, I just wanted to bring to light the fact, and I mentioned it kind of in the last video, but there's a bunch of young people around the world who are very displeased and unhappy with their country right now or where the world is headed or et cetera, things along those lines, rephrased and repackaged. But I wanted to mention a time that, well, which was the entire rest of history as behind us, but things have never been good. Things, there were good times, and I think the, social media kind of makes these times worse. Or it makes people a bit more angsty and cynical than our parents or grandparents' generation. But there's always been something majorly wrong. Even the times following World War II, that people like to talk about when baby boomers had it easy. Some of them still fought in World War II, or World War II, pardon me, Vietnam. They had to live through. Some of them were born into the era of Korea, so they were still a war going on. They had to deal with the financial crises of the 70s, right when they were, becoming adults and having kids, um, or when they were in school. These are not easy problems. I get that the financial strain on young people today is really like no other. It's tough. It's really tough no matter where you are. But there, as annoying as it is, things have still never been better. Access to healthy food, certain luxuries in your life, medical care, even violent crime, it just goes like this. Everything over time. Infant mortality, deaths during childbirth for women, workplace deaths for men. Just going down. Um, but I do want to talk about also a point that I'll reflect that with, which is things don't get better unless you are working on them too. And even on your small little individual level, you just as a person in your own life, with your own friends, your own job, running away from where you are in that country doesn't help those problems get fixed. Um, I get that transportation is easier nowadays and whatnot, but for these structural issues, it's not like people fleeing war or people fleeing a famine or something that is a threat to life and sanctity. Um, it's just displeasure, I guess. But those changes don't happen if you aren't there. And the main example I look to is in the Anglosphere. People, particularly in Ireland, the amount of young people that have left Ireland. I get that they really had to, or they felt they had to. It wasn't under threat of life, but it was to live in the modern era. If they didn't leave their voter base or their voices, that's what would have really made a change in Ireland or in the UK. The amount of young people leaving the UK, a lot of, not to nearly the same degree, but a lot of young people leaving Canada. Same thing. Just a housing crisis so hard, so harsh that young people feel forced to go, despite Canada not being at war, despite Canada having jobs. It's just they felt constrained in their own country. And there's other arguments that people can make, immigration or certain political malaise and all that. I hear those. But that's kind of not the point of this video. Um, but without making this video about those issues don't change unless you stay. It's kind of like in your own life. Say you're right where you are right now, and you change nothing, or you run away. That doesn't improve your life. It's literally running from your problems. You have a dirty bed, or you don't like the way certain plumbing works in your house. The best way to have that get better is to do something about it. And so I just want to put out another video saying, a lot of the issues you complain about, or a lot of the young people fleeing certain countries, those issues don't change with you going away. And I see it. If you're proud of where you come from, that's fine. If you don't feel proud of where you come from, that's fine. But I'm just saying that I actually look down on people who seemingly run away from non-violent issues in their country. Um, and I know I know that America kind of has it good right now in terms of economics. I know that people abroad say that there's political instability. For the time being, don't think there is. I think you read European media, you think there's going to be a civil war tomorrow, but it's just not the case. Yeah, things. It's the old. Such an old phrase, but the grass is always greener. But what about watering some of your own? That might make your own grass greener. Um, yeah, definitely. Face up to some of the issues. Be active in them. You know, I get it. It's you want to live the best life possible, and you think that is going somewhere else for economic or political reasons. I get it, but by all, please stay active. If you can vote in your country from abroad, do so. But these issues don't won't change because otherwise everybody would do that. Everybody would get up and leave. Everybody would go somewhere else. Everybody would pretend they don't that those problems don't exist and just go somewhere else for peace of mind. But where you're going also has those problems. If you're going from the U.S. to the U.K., the UK right now has all this debate over migration, freedom of speech, out of touch politics. I'm not saying American politics isn't out of touch, but you listen to what MPs and members of Congress are saying. It's like they're talking to two different types of citizenry. Um, you're going to find it everywhere you go. So just be prepared for that. Know that nowhere's perfect, but know that if you really care about where you are or where you're from, commit to it. It's like a relationship. Even if there's a bumpy bit or there's something you don't like, you need to stand there and try. Don't just immediately get up and go at the first sign of trouble after you graduate university. I know that's hard to hear and it's rich to say when I'm not from either New Zealand or Canada or Ireland where there's these really tough housing crises, or not from England or Ireland where there's these pressures from Europe involving sovereignty and freedom of speech, or from Australia, or well, I guess the job market's better in Australia, but you get what I'm saying. There's problems everywhere. I'm kind of rambling, aren't I? I guess I'll succinctly end the video with saying commit to something you like. Commit to a place you like. Your best neighbors aren't the ones who are rich. They aren't the ones who look the nicest. They aren't the ones who, put up the most Christmas decorations or, do all that. Your best neighbor is the one that's absolutely committed to that neighborhood and its betterment. And that's what you want to be to your country, to your family, to your friends, or whatever country you choose to do that to. You want to be that. Don't give up on it. Those are the best people because they'll go around and help everybody in that neighborhood. They'll pick up trash when they see it. If there's a problem with a pothole not getting fixed, they're going to be somebody to do. They're the one to do something about it. I just don't want people to rely on the goodwill of others. As much as you should anticipate it, you should expect as much of that goodwill coming from you as you should from others. That's all. And I just see, you go on social media, it's all people talk about how to move to, how to get out of, blah, blah, blah. It's it's almost sickening. So yeah, just another rambling. But I mean, I'm trying to do these videos to practice talking or putting my opinions out there or doing anything. Yeah. So have a good day whenever you're seeing this. Leave any thoughts you have below. Thank you.